What's up guys, I'm Shane and this is Spare Change. If you've got a passion for new movies and for new audio and video gear, then tap the subscribe button for new weekly videos. And for review, we have Ant-Man on 4K Blu-ray. I won't be reviewing the movie itself, I'm just going to share with you my thoughts on the video and the audio quality. Now for a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 2.8 and 3.4K. It's got a 2K DI, it's rated PG-13. Runtime is 117 minutes. Aspect ratio is 185:1. So there are no black bars. You know, I wasn't expecting much, but as it turns out, this is one of the best looking Marvel movies I've seen. It's sharp, full of detail, and it's crispy for most of the movie. Sure, close-ups were full of fine little nuances like wrinkles, facial hair, and all that good stuff. And even Ant-Man's costume had even more revealing details like the mechanical workings on his helmet and the texture on his costume. I think his costume is made out of leather. Let's talk about how good that CGI looks. Hank's de-aging in Chapter 1 looks so good, I totally forgot that this man is in his 70s. I mean, they got the texture of his skin and his facial movements down perfectly. The digital effects when Ant-Man turned small never really had that green screen fake look about it. There was excellent scale between Ant-Man and his surroundings, and the only thing that made me think, what can make these digital effects look even more realistic? It'd be 3D, of course. If you had seen Ant-Man and the Wasp in 3D, you'll know that there's greater depth of field when Scott turns small. In Chapter 6, when he shrinks down into the shower, sure, it looks fantastic in 4K, but in 3D, you get a heightened sense of the backgrounds being even larger than life. When he's running away from the water, the 4K can't compete with the 3D here. Now, I'm not saying the 3D destroys it like in other Marvel movies, because I feel in this particular 4K transfer, it is so clean looking and detail is much more present, and there is still nice depth and dimension. Not 3D depth, but the extra detail and color are much better than the 3D version. And speaking of color, the wider color spectrum does flesh out the visuals with richer saturations that look more natural and in certain scenes can be HDR showcases. When Ant-Man goes into the quantum realm in Chapter 15, there are some excellent rich vibrant colors and crazy spectral highlights as things float around past him. Now if you watch this same scene in 3D, the immersion factor is just amped up. Now you really feel like things are floating past him and you might get a little lightheaded because of the greater depth reaching inwards. The 4K does have better color, I'll give it that. As I mentioned, there are some great spectral highlights in the 4K version that can be pretty eye-piercing, and black levels added a nice contrast to the rich color palette. Audio is done in Dolby Atmos, and just like the other Marvel releases, it does lean on the lower side. I'd say it's got a mid-level soundstage that isn't as airy and detailed as I would have expected for a big action movie, but being from Disney Marvel, my expectations weren't all that high. For Atmos height effects, there were a handful of scenes that sounded great. In Chapter 14, when Siri gets activated, you'll hear her voice come through every speaker, while the Cure song also fills in the lower and the high channels. The final fight in Chapter 15 has some moments of lasers and debris flying past your head, but as a whole, the movie was kind of weak for surround activity. As for bass response, probably the best scene is in Chapter 6 when he's running through the dance club. When people are stomping their feet, you could imagine if this was in real life that the low frequency energy could bring down the house. And it does sound that way here. If you've got some big subwoofers, then this scene will definitely give it a workout. There are some other action scenes with good bass, but I wouldn't see anything as really demo worthy. Dialogue was fine, if not a bit compressed sounding in certain parts, but otherwise, the vocals were always easy to hear. So for audio, I'm gonna go with a 7.7. There's some occasional nice Atmos height effects and some occasional great bass, but overall, I thought it was just an above average mix for such a big action movie. For video, I'm gonna go with a 9.6. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting too much seeing how Ant-Man isn't exactly one of Marvel's A-list superheroes. So I thought maybe they just keep this transfer very average looking. But after seeing this, it's easily one of the best looking movies from Marvel I've seen yet. And I also think it's one of the best looking 4Ks that I've seen this year. It's sharp, it's clean, and the HDR looked fantastic. Now since I spoke about it, I'd have to give the 3D version a 9.6 as well. I think the 3D is great with depth and dimension that the 4K just can't touch. But the color and detail in 4K, the 3D just can't touch. And yes, the 4K Blu-ray is an improvement over the regular Blu-ray. But I feel with this movie, 3D or 4K, you really can't go wrong with either one, and I think that they're both worth owning. Now, if you want to grab any of these discs, I'll leave some links for them down below in the description. Let us know which way you're leaning, 4K or 3D. As always, thanks for watching. You can find us on social media, and if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content and giveaways, then stop by our Patreon page. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys again in the next one.